There is opinion that you need a very high IQ to understand the humor in Rick and Morty. The people who have it must suffer because of how few games suit them. Studios Quinch Games saved this situation. This team was founded more than 6 years ago by Justin Roiland, the creator of the same animated series. All the games he released boast the same absurd humor, according Travel Saves the Universe and the recently released High on Life. With each release, Roland's team is becoming more experienced, but there's still room for growth. If Trover saves the universe, then this time you need to save the Earth. She was attacked by the G3 alien cartel, who wanted to capture people and turn them into a hologenic drag. To prevent this, you need to destroy several leaders. A difficult task falls on the shoulders of an ordinary teenager who received an alien pistol at the beginning of the game. There are no other candidates. The only bounty hunter who could do better tried it and gave the protagonist his equipment. I thought the plot here is a little less absurd than in the studio's last game. The degree of humor rises every minute, and jokes are pulled from a cornucopia. Then you find out which of the two aliens guarding the gate is more attractive, and depending on your choice, go to the left or right door. This of course does not affect anything. Then you help the adorable octopus solve pipe puzzles so that he can get to the next location. Did you go to the puzzle school? He asks as the last riddle. In any other game, the joke would seem dumb, but here it fits perfectly. Of course, there are really unsuccessful jokes, but there are surprisingly few. Even banalities become funnier thanks to the excellent presentation. Everything fits together perfectly here. Numerous actors clearly get a buzz from dubbing. The characters are outwardly different from each other and cause slaughter with their appearance. And colorful and diverse location makes the adventure not boring. Breaking the fourth wall, reference to video games and humor from the waist down is not complete, and the appearance of several full-length films of the last century was the icing on the cake. Where also would you watch a tape called Vampire Hookers. The main stars are guns that do not stop for a minute. The first pistol is especially good. It was voiced by Roland himself, and one can only envy his mastery of improvisation, and many of the lines were clearly not prepared in advance. Even when he repeats the same thing, he does it like it should be. Guns comment on your actions, remind you of gameplay features, yell instead of the main character when he falls into the abyss, and sometimes complain that it is boring to stick around in a holster if you haven't used them for a long time. In the settings, you can make the character less talkative, but it's hard for me to understand why, in this case, play such a game at all. But there's a problem. There is no transaction in any form. I rarely pay attention to this in reviews, but this case is special. There is too much dialogue. The actors, cheaters, and many phrases are heard during gunfights, so it is difficult to catch every joke. If you do not know English well, then you will go noticeably less pleasure from passing that you could. The humor here is mostly conversation, not visual. The gameplay here is not ideal, but the novelty does not seem like a low-budget craft either. The authors were clearly inspired by Metroid. The main character constantly receives not only new guns, but also abilities like a dash, a jetpack, and the ability to cling to ledges with a whip and so on. At real levels, some chests that store collectibles and currency for purchasing upgrades cannot be opened immediately. It is expected that you will return later with the necessary equipment. I would not say that the game encourages you to spend time on this, but those who like to complete everything will have something to do. In battles as well as dialogues, guns also shine. Each of them has not only the usual mode of fire, but also an alternative one. The starter pistol, for example, fires slime blobs that knocks up enemies if they explode near them, turning them into flying targets for a couple of seconds. And Swizzy's cannon, which looks like a punk-haired fish, not only allows you to harm aliens through cover, you can shoot enemies with needles, and then determine them with a punch or unchanged shot. My favorite was Gus, a shotgun beautifully voiced by comedian GB Smooth and shaped like a chubby frog. It's not very good as a shotgun, but its alternative mode is great. You release a buzz saw that bounces from one opponent to another, and after a couple of such bounces, it flies in your direction. If you press the strike button in time, you will beat off the saw, and it will fly to the opponents again. You can repeat the process until everyone is dead, or until you miss a hit. By the way, grenades thrown by aliens can be discarded in the same way. It's a pity the game doesn't really try to put you in a situation where you need to use the entire arsenal. I think you can easily go through almost everything with a gun, switching to something else just to solve the puzzles. The arenas are quite primitive, the type of enemies are not enough, and the artificial intelligence is stupid. Sometimes opponents hide behind covers, but very soon they either stick their heads out of crawl out of safe places and run away to the side. There were moments when I died, even at the average difficulty level, but this was not connected with the intelligence of the enemies, rather because of their stupidity. I became too arrogant and almost ran into the crowd. But the Actors of High Life came out with an original damage system. Here the enemies are covered in yellow goo, and the more you hit them, the thinner the layer becomes. When throwing away grenades using alternative fire modes and exploding barrels, you notice very quickly skinny aliens, which are enough for 2 or 3 hits. Surprisingly, the game will even explain what kind of slime it is. They can come up with alternatives of the health bar, whatever they want. Prize and battles with bosses, which are much more fun skirmishes with ordinary aliens. You need to hide behind shelters and constantly move, and use a whip. Either shells fly or areas appear on the floor on which it is undesirable to stand for a long time. In the end, you still have to shoot at a large enemy with a lot of health, but it is still more fun than the throwing shotguns in the arenas by the second half of the game. So to sum up, is High on Life has already won the love of the public, and not only among Game Pass subscribers, but also on Steam. Apparently gamers missing humor shooters, devoid of serious and drama. It is noticeable with what pleasure the developers created Hide on Life, and how they fooled around in the process. During the passage, you plunge deeper into this absurd world, expecting new surprises and never ceasing to smile. The gameplay is not perfect, but Roland's team is gaining experience very quickly. I hope over time they will be able to release something truly amazing.